Christopher Melling. I'm going full name Christopher. We want to know all about you. Everything. We just want to know absolutely everything. You've been around for some time now. 8-ball, 9-ball, snooker, seem to be dabbling in everything. And there's so many titles, so many achievements, and you're still here, you're still doing things and playing in the events. Just want to know how it all started, to be honest.
Bit of a strange one, really. My dad used to take me to the pub on a Saturday afternoon while my mother did the shopping in Morrison's, and my dad wasn't keen on that, to be fair, so his excuse was go to the pub. So I used to go to the local with him when I was like 9 years old, and he'd have a few drinks with his mates. I'd play pool in the back with a couple of guys. And then one of the guys just asked me if I wanted to play a doubles tournament, which was the week after. Never played a tournament in my life. Used the screw-on tips on the cues. Didn't have me on cue. We ended up winning it. I've still actually got the trophy in my cabinet at home.
How big?
It was only a small trophy, about that big. And then my next door neighbour said to my dad, can I take Chris down to the local snooker club? I might be able to sign him up for a team. I think he's got potential. So my dad let me go down there when I was 9 years old. 10 years old, I played for a ladies team, which a lot of people won't know about, yeah. I played for a ladies team because the men didn't want me on their team because they didn't think I was good enough. And then by the time I was 14 years old, I won the senior individuals when I was 14.
Okay.
That then got me into a few other junior tournaments. A couple of guys sponsored me. Played the English Junior Championship, my first ever major junior tournament, and I won that. That in turn got me into the European Junior Championships, which was a different rule set.
Okay.
And I lost in the final. I had 2 weeks to learn the rules, so I had no idea. I just knew how to pop balls. And then when I was 17, that got me in the World Junior Championships, and I won that. So my first 3 junior tournaments, I'd won 2 out of the 3 majors and lost in the final of the other. That in turn got me into the senior ranks, where you had to finish the top 64 on the UK pool tour to turn professional. I did that in my first season. Then when I was 18, I won my first professional title.
Wow. So this is all, just to rewind back slightly, this is all 8-ball pool.
That was all 8-ball pool, but at the same time I was playing a lot of snooker. I didn't even play American pool because it wasn't very popular back then. When I was a kid, there was no tables, so I didn't really know any different. But I was going from snooker, to playing pool, going to school every day. I never missed school. Come home from school about 3:30 in the afternoon, and then 4:30 after I've had my tea, I'd catch the bus into town, play snooker until roughly about 11 o'clock at night. I'd get a taxi home. I had my own tab at the club, what my mum and my dad used to pay every Friday. It was around £120.
So how old are you at this time?
I was about 10, 11 years old at this time.
You're getting the bus there,
Yeah.
taxi home at 11 o'clock. You're not getting into trouble?
No,
My parents would kill me if I was doing that.
Yeah, because my mum always said, I don't care what it costs within reason. I know where you are, and I know you're not getting in trouble.
Okay.
And a lot of people there looked after me, because I was a young kid, and to be honest, I was really cocky and arrogant when I was younger. I'm probably a bit cocky now, but not as bad as I used to be. But my mum knew me where I was all the time. She knew I wasn't going out causing bother and, being a little hooligan, let's say. So yeah, that's all I did as a junior, and I never missed school. But the funny thing was, when I was growing up, my teachers used to say to me, you need to get a secondary job, you need to get an education, which I don't disagree with that. But little did they know, I was probably earning as much as they were when I was still at school.
So they're talking about that you're doing this pool, and they're saying you need to get something else on the side because this isn't sustainable for you for a career.
Yeah, and I totally agree with what they say, because probably 99% of people don't earn a living from what they love. I was one of the fortunate ones, and yeah, you do need to put the work in, and you need to be dedicated, but you also need that little bit of luck. And I think I had that, with the luck part being my parents, who were just working class parents that gave me everything, and so did my grandma's. Give me the last penny, and even when my grandma passed away, she says, I give you all the money in the world, all I've got, and you never even buy me a bar of chocolate. So without them, there's no way I'd be where I am now.
So it's because it's funny how you look at it. So, I mean, it's very different for like a young girl sort of thing at that age. You'd be in so much trouble, being out at that time of night and things like that. But when you look at it from the other side, you just said, well, my mum knew that I was at a snooker hall or a pool hall. I was there. I wasn't getting into trouble. You're not out hanging about on the streets. So actually, I think people always associate that a snooker club or a pool hall is bad for you, but it actually takes people off the streets, brings you into a pool hall, and you're there till late at night, and then you're coming home.
Yeah, and what a lot of people don't realise also, it educates you as well, because not only are you playing snooker, it educates you in mathematics because you're counting the breaks. So you're also learning as you go along, even when they've got the dartboards in the snooker club. You're still playing darts, you're learning mathematics, you're learning angles, which is where I was one of the best at school at mathematics.
Oh wow, I didn't think about something like that. Who even, because obviously if you're walking into the snooker club and there is that rule side, you know, you've got to count your way to making the breaks and things like that. Who was teaching you that when you were walking in?
It was the owner of the club, Harold and Anne owned the club, and the son Glenn was a partner. Glenn's about 10 years older than me, and I used to play Harold and Anne all the time, and they give me free light when I played them, but if I played any other players I had to pay for it.
What's free light?
Basically I'd pay for the table, but when I played them I didn't pay for it, which at the time I think it was about £4 an hour. So that helped financially because, like I said, my mum and dad was paying for everything. And I used to beat them now and again, but then obviously when you're playing all the time, you improve all the time. I mean, I made a 100 break when I was 12 years old and a 147 when I was 14. So I knew that I could do it, but my mind was set on pool, and it always has been, to be honest. Even though I qualified for the main tour 3 times at snooker, my mind has always been with pool.
And why is that? Why has it always been with pool?
I don't know, to be honest. I wouldn't say it's because I didn't think I was good enough, because I think I was good enough. I just wasn't dedicated enough. And I'll be the first person to hold my hand up and say, if I'd have put the hours in at snooker, I think I would have made it. A lot of the snooker players say the same about me. But I just won so much more at pool. I enjoyed it more. I enjoyed the atmosphere more. There's more travelling about at the time, where when you got on the main tour originally, you had to win 5 matches to win any prize money. And it was so difficult because it was kind of sectioned off. So if you got through the first section of the draw, you then played a better player to play a better player to play a better player each round. And I was losing to, like, I lost to Stuart Bingham 5-4, lost to Ryan Day 5-4. You know, I was losing to a lot of big players who are now top 16 in the world.
And at what point in your life was this happening?
I was about, I think it was 2021. Okay. I made a promise to my mum and dad and to myself that I would never drink a drop of alcohol until I was world champion, whether that had been pool, snooker, or whatever it was. And I never did.
Wow. You stuck by that?
Yeah. And the night I won the World 8-Ball Championships in Blackpool in 2001, I had a bottle of Newcastle Brown.
Did you just keel over?
Yeah, I think that's where it all went downhill.
That's crazy. So you just stuck by that, and then that was the turning point.
Yeah.
But you won another one. You double 8-ball champion.
Yeah, I won it 2 years later, and it was so strange because the 2 years later when I did win it, the guy I beat in the final, I actually played him in all 3 TV finals that year. Really? And I beat him in all 3, which has never been done before. And unfortunately, the year after I did that, somebody stole my cue from the Hilton in Brighton. No. And my cue was very unique. It was like 90 years old, and it only weighed 12.5 ounces. And I actually played Steve Davis at the Admiral World Nineball Championships in Cardiff.
It was the quarter-final.
Last 16.
Last 16.
Sorry, no, it was last 32 when I beat Steve Davis. And the commentators were commentating on it. It was Sid Waddell and I think it was Dave Clark who was announcing it. And they all said, I can't believe you're potting balls with this cue. Drago was like, I don't know how you're using that. But it just felt like part of my arm. And when that got stolen, my game went to pieces. I couldn't win a tournament. I could hardly win a match. And to be honest, I don't think I've ever been the same player since I had that cue stolen. Yes, I've won a lot of other titles since that day that happened, but I do think it affected me for a long time.
A lot of people would listen to that and go, oh, it's just a cue. You know, like any sort of casual fan, I guess, would say, well, what's so important about a cue? Is it just sometimes in your mind that you're like, no, that was my cue, and it's like trying to get over that. But there's obviously so much more to it being in your mind that there is a piece of equipment that you obviously need to have right in order to play with.
Yeah, it's like part of your arm, really, you know, because I've used it since I was 9 years old. So it's not something that I've just picked up, from a local club. It's something that a friend gave me. It was,
Right.
through his family, and I used that. And everything I did when I was playing, I knew exactly where that cue ball was going. It did exactly what I wanted it to do 99% of the time. And when I had that stolen, I was winning matches, but I was guessing so many times what I was doing. I was playing for areas. And because I was such a raw potter back then, kind of like Jason Shaw, now, I was like that. And all the lads who knew me when I was growing up would tell you the same. But then I kind of lost my way a little bit. Things happened in life, later on in life. And I kind of I lost my way, really. And I should have put the hours in. When I didn't put the hours in, I started going out a little bit more, started drinking a little bit more, and it got on top of me. And my game went to pieces. I dropped down the rankings. In pool, yeah. And lucky for me, I had a few friends who got behind me and just said, look, get back on the practice table. You're too talented to not make a living at this. Because I started, I was working for a delivery company, driving Ford vehicles and delivering to customers and things like that, because my dad worked for Ford for 43 years. So I enjoyed doing that. I watched him being a mechanic. Loved watching him fix cars and things like that. So I started doing that, and I kind of lost interest with it all. But then obviously Matchroom started putting a lot of pool events on. There was a few more English pool events on. The snooker was on all the time, and I just thought, I've got to get back on that table. And lucky for me, it worked.
When you talk about the cue, it just made me think of like Harry Potter when they like pick the wand for someone. You're just like, you've got this cue for you. But when you said that after you won that second World 8-Ball Championship and that cue went, what age were you when you won the second?
I was 23.
So you're 23. This cue that you've been using that got given to you when you were 9, since when you went to the pub when your dad was taking you, and that's what you've been playing with. That goes, and then you, like you said, you were going out a little bit. Was there any sort of because you just won those 2 world championships in a couple of years? What sort of money did you win?
Well, there wasn't massive amounts of money in English 8-ball. Each time I won the Worlds, I got 10,000.
Okay.
The other TV events were like 3,000 to 5,000 for the winners. Like with the snooker, you had to win 5 matches to get any prize money. The American pool, I didn't really play any American pool until the qualifiers came along for the World Championships in Cardiff, where me and Darren Appleton both went down, and we both qualified in Cardiff the first time and Swansea the second time. And lucky for me, I got to the last 16, losing out to the Dancing Bear, Alain Martel from Canada. And I genuinely think if I had the knowledge of what I have now and the experience, I think I could have won that. I still think I can win the World Championships, but back then I was so raw, I didn't think I could miss anything. And obviously coming from a snooker table, English pool table, to an American pool table with big pockets, I'm thinking, well, how can anybody miss on these tables?
Yeah.
But obviously playing American pool a lot more now, I think it's hard to pot the ball sometimes.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because in more my recent years of just knowing you, sometimes if you come off the table, you're more of a lack of confidence side of things. Like you can, some of the shots that you make, and we look at them in the office, it's like you're like a walking highlight reel that we say, because you make shots that people don't make, because you've got this crossover between the snooker and the pool. It's so impressive, but you have that lack of confidence now. But hearing you speak about before when you were younger, and you're just like, I could pot anything. What was that transition? What was that turning point of that confidence?
I think a lot of it was going to the Philippines,
Okay.
and learning the game from the Filipinos, going to America, learning the game. Darren Appleton helped me a lot. Ralph Suke helped me a lot, especially when I got in the Moscone. They showed me things that I wouldn't know unless they'd shown me. And there's so many people out there that play now that unless you're showed some of these systems, you can never know them. It's impossible. And I was fortunate that they showed me, and I used my own systems as well. So when I play these shots, I'm using 3 different systems.
Okay.
Obviously, when you've got a 30-second clock, it's very difficult to work everything out that quick, even though I am a fast player. So a lot of the shots that I do are memory, and feel. But I do use measuring systems. I use a mirror image system, a diamond system, and my own personal system. which obviously I won't give that one away.
No, okay, I won't ask too much.
Yeah, but I mean, I've made so many shots. I mean, the one I did in America, it's had over all social media networks, it's had over 100 million views, which I don't think there's a Q Sports player alive that's had that.
It's mad.
But I wish I had my own YouTube channel when that happened, but I didn't. But yeah, I mean, I love playing all Q Sports, love playing pool, 9-ball, snooker, and I don't think I'll ever quit. I think the only time I'll quit is when I physically can't walk anymore or use my eyes.
Use your eyes. So I'm just talking through the timeline. So you're at this point where you kind of gave up a little bit after losing the Q, went out a little bit. Maybe you won 2 world titles and thought you were Jack the Lad and was going out. But then you said there are a few people that obviously helped you get back, and you were seeing maybe the snooker tour was starting to develop then. How did that start looking for you as a player, like when you started to get back into it?
It was a great feeling, because obviously when it's hard to describe, but when somebody's flying, let's say when they play, you just think you're never ever ever going to miss a ball. No matter where that ball is, you're going to pot that ball. And I got that feeling back, which I'd lost, and I don't know how I got it back. And the guy who actually owned the snooker club started writing a book about me. Unfortunately, he passed away halfway writing through the book, and the book was called The Alien Inside. That was the alien inside me. Okay. It was about me. So when I was, say, buzzing, let's say when I was playing, it was all about this alien in me that just triggered. And when it triggered, I was virtually unbeatable, unplayable at some points. But obviously there's so many players that can play as good as I can and better. But I just wanted to get back to where I was, put the hours in. Everybody was saying, get back on your horse type thing. You're too good to be driving a van. You're too good to be going out drinking and not caring. Yeah. So thinking about what I'd done in the past and what my parents had given up and my grandparents for me to be where I was at that point, I just thought I have to knuckle down here.
Do you regret any of that time that you took off to go and drink or anything, or do you think that's taught you something that...
I think it's taught me a lot, to be honest. I went through a stage through life when things was up and down. A few things happened personally, which a lot of my close friends know about, and I got a little bit depressed. Things that my mother passed away and my grandma passed away. Just so many things that happened. My manager, my sponsor dropped dead in front of me. I had a heart attack. Oh, my best mate had a heart attack in front of me, literally. And this was all in 6 months. And it was like everything was on top of me all at once.
How do you even cope with something like that?
It was so hard, and I got depressed. And it's only about 6 months ago, I actually went to see a friend of mine called Mark, and he spoke to me about it, and he was in a similar situation many years ago. And he asked me what I'm good at. And he says, because the shots that you play on a pool table and the angles and these crazy outs that you get, he says, I think you're autistic. And I was like, what do you mean I'm autistic? Because my cousin's actually autistic. Okay. And he's a sound enough guy, you wouldn't know. And I said, what do you mean by that? He says, not physically. He says, I think mentally you're autistic. He said, are you any good at maths? I went, yeah, I'm brilliant. Yeah. And he went, the angles that you see so quickly, he said, I think you're partly autistic, and he thinks that's something to do with it. And I was like, yeah, it makes a little bit of sense, to be honest.
Well, how did you take that? How did you respond?
It was kind of like a weight off my shoulders.
Oh, really?
Because I kind of knew something was different because of I see the shots so quickly. Even when I'm doing the speed pool, I see like 5-6 shots in front in seconds. But it was kind of like a weight off the shoulders, really, because I knew something wasn't right. But I'm not any different to how I was before. Still try and do the crazy stuff that I do, and still try and win every tournament I play in, and I just try and enjoy it more, do you know what I mean? But back then, it was kind of like, whoever's in front of me, I'm going to beat them. I don't care who it is, they're going to get beat. Where now I'm thinking, oh, I could lose this match, I could miss this ball, and things play in your mind.
But that's that confidence in you where like you're such an impressive player, and you know, speaking about the calculations, speaking about the crossovers between the different sports, and you're literally saying, I can make any shot, anyone in front of me, I can beat them. Like, where was that switch of that confidence?
I don't know really. I just think I got a lot of confidence from, believe it or not, people coming up to me and asking for my autograph and pictures, because I felt important. Where I've always been a shy person, but recently, I've loved it, to be honest. You know, and I do appreciate there's a lot of people in the sporting world, and you know, I'm not saying I'm famous, but famous people that get autographs and pictures and they get mithered quite a bit. Where I actually love it, you know, and I love people coming up and saying, "Oh, can I have your autograph? Can I?" Because it makes me feel important, and that gives you confidence, even though you're not actually playing. You think these people are spending money to come and watch me, so I must be doing something right.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it gives you confidence that way.
Well, I will tell you that for the first time that we're working with like a UK PR agency that work across like the different sports that we do. And when we had an initial meeting with them, they're not in pool. They're just, you know, they work across different, like the presenters and things like that. And we mentioned Paul, and they're because they're a British brand. Chris Melling. We're like, yeah. Like, you are a big name here. You are. And it's incredible from what you've done, and I always think it's quite amazing how to play between the different disciplines and even across the different sports. Even when you speak to the likes of Judd, for instance, about playing in the pool events, he's very much like, I want to come in and I want to play well, so I want to practice for it. I want to be able to have time to focus to practice. You literally just jump in and out to the different sports, and like that's a very rare ability to have, because you've grown up doing that. Like you said, I'll be on the pool table one time and then I'll be on snooker, and I was also doing both tournaments. I think it's such a rare ability that people wouldn't have now.
Yeah, it's really strange, and because I've never been the biggest practicer over the probably past 5 to 10 years.
Okay.
But from being a young kid at 9-year-old up to probably being 23, 24, 25, I practiced every single day, 8 hours a day, weekends 12 hours a day, and like I said, I never went out drinking. I just practiced, whether that be English pool or snooker. I didn't know anything different. That was my life, and still is, within reason. And I just think that I'm fortunate that I can switch. I went to the Derby City Classic with Darren. I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago, and I won the straight pool. I'd never played it in my life.
No.
I didn't even have a cue. I picked the cue up when I got there. Predator actually gave me the cue when I arrived.
Yeah.
I just picked it up and I made 200 odd. I'd never played it. Didn't know the rules. The same year, I finished, I think it was 5th in the banks. Never played it.
So it must be giving you that
Yeah,
confidence boost.
you just, obviously I'm guessing, I don't really know what I'm doing. And then a couple of years ago, I think 2 or 3 years ago, I won the Nineball.
Yeah.
And the year after that, I finished 3rd in the one pocket. I haven't got a clue how to play one pocket. I just know you've got to put 8 balls in one pocket before your opponent. So they leave you one shot, hoping that you're going to hang it. I just kept running out, and like everybody's going mad. I mean, I beat Pagalay and I beat Justin Bergman, and they're 2 of the best in the world. And they're both shaking their head, thinking, "What's he doing?"
Why is
it
he
was
doing
just,
it enough?
it was just so wrong what I was doing, but I kept clearing up.
What was working for you?
Yeah, and in the end, I ended up putting the right ball in the wrong pocket against Roberto Gomez, and I ended up losing the match. But I was delighted to finish 3rd. But going back to obviously switching between snooker and pool, I think it will have affected me somewhere along the line. But when I was younger, it just didn't bother me at all. I could go to a pool tournament and win it. I could come home, make a 147. I mean, I've been fortunate in my life that I can do that, and there's not many people, you know, that can do that really without putting the hours in. And I think if I do put more work in, I do put more hours in, I think I'll definitely achieve more. And that's my goal moving forward.
So you're looking at your goal now. What is that? So you're saying, right, I'm putting more hours in. I'm not done yet. So if I was saying, what's your next 3 or 5 year plan for Chris Melling?
Well, I definitely want to win a Matchroom event.
Okay.
I certainly want to win a World Championship, which would be a Matchroom event in all in one. I know I can do it. I know for a fact I can do it. I've won the China Open, which was a WPA ranking event. I won the Derby City Classic 9-ball. Won the World Pool Series. I won Euro Tours. You know, I've won a lot of events, but I haven't won one of the big Matchroom events, and that is certainly on my radar. And you need a little bit of luck, you need a little bit of skill, and you just hope it's your time. I mean, you look at Francisco Sanchez Ruiz, and you know what he has done. I don't think anybody will replicate that ever again, because he's gone from being a very, very good player to just being unbeatable, and he's winning everything. Fedor Gorst's done the same over the past few years, you know. But the way Francisco's done it, I mean, if he'd have won the last event, he'd have been the 8-ball, 9-ball, and 10-ball world champion in the same year, which I mean, I just don't know anybody that's ever done that.
Was there any? Do you feel like the competition has got obviously much higher now than what it was before? Is that, you know, does that make things a bit tougher?
Yeah, for sure, and I think the equipment's tougher now. You have to be more accurate, which is a great thing. You want to see people miss. Yeah, you want to see people miss, and you don't want the tables to be too tight, because you can't play a lot of the shots at Nineball, which is what the game's all about. It's entertaining the crowd, it's being able to play these flash shots, flash clearances, and that's what people love to see. So for me, I think the tables, you know, the setup is perfect, but you know, you just want to. I've got to win a Matchroom event. I have to win one. You know, I won't stop playing until I've won an event, and I will win one. There's no doubt about it, because I've gone deep in a few of them. I finished 5th in the US Open. I finished 3rd in the World 8-ball Championships, 5th in the World 10-ball Championships. I finished 5th in the World 9-ball Championships. So I'm there and thereabouts. And I've beat all these players who've won events, and they've also beat me. So I know I can do it. It's just a case of when. So to achieve that, what are you sitting at home now going, right, this is what I need to do. This is how many hours I'm practicing a day. Do you have like a set plan or anything like that? Yeah, and it's funny that you should ask me that, because I actually spoke to Jason Shaw earlier.
Okay.
My best game at the time was when I was going to America and practicing with Jason. I was staying at his house for 3-4 weeks at a time, and me and him used to practice every day at the pool club. And sometimes he'd go on his own, because I couldn't be bothered, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Okay.
But I said to him today, I said, look, I need to come over a couple of weeks before an event, play every day with you, because I know that if I put the work in, the more work you put in, the luckier you're going to get. And I don't know why, but it just works like that. And I think that once I start doing that, the results will come.
So to just step back slightly, when you were saying you had those ups and downs, for you to try and sort of bounce back, was there anything key that you did to get you back to, you know, when you said that that alien inside came out and it came back after you got your cue stolen, at what point in your life was that, or how do you get out of those sort of up and downs?
I was about 31, 32 years old, and I actually got in contact with a sports psychologist as well.
Okay.
And he was a sports psychologist, I don't know if he still is, for Manchester United and Wigan Warriors at rugby. And I went and met him in Bolton. I had a sit down with him, and what he said just made so much sense. But when he said it, it was so obvious what it was. And he said that when you're under pressure, and when you're feeling down and you feel the world's on your shoulders and everything's against you, just think of all the good things that have happened to you. And I'm thinking, well, that's obvious. But I didn't realise until he told me that. And every time I feel under pressure now, or I feel like I'm going to feel a bit down, or some part of the year, a time in the year where something's happened, you know, personally, and it's like, it might be my mum's birthday, it might be Christmas, things like that, and you do feel a little bit down. And then I just think all the good times that I were with my mum, and all the good times that when I've won tournaments. I mean, when I won the World 8-ball Championship, I actually said to my mum and dad, don't come and watch me in the final. And the only reason was that I've never won when they've watched me. I've never won a match when they've watched me. And I don't know if that's pressure or whatever it was, because I never felt like I felt pressure really when I was young. And during the interval, I think I was 5-4 up at the interval, or 6-4 up, and I went to the toilet, and my dad was in the toilet, and I had to look twice because I didn't realise it was my dad at first. I'm thinking he looks like my dad, and I was like, oh, it is my dad. And then I went, what are you doing here? And he says, oh, please, he says, don't tell your mum you've seen me. I went, my mum's here. He went, yeah, you know, just please. I said, if I lose, you two are getting blamed for this. And lucky for me, I won 11-10. And my mum actually came on and gave me a kiss and a cuddle on TV. It's on,
Wow.
and I've actually got the DVD of it at home, and I've only ever watched it once because it hurts too much to watch it, if you know what I mean.
But you have that at home to cherish as such.
Yeah, because I was very close to my mum, like really close. And ever since she did pass away, me and my dad have become a lot closer.
Okay.
So things that I would never speak to my dad about, you know, even like if I wanted to borrow money off him, I would never ask my dad because I knew what the answer would be.
Oh, really?
He wouldn't lend you a penny, you know. But he's gone through his own troubles recently. But my mum gave me everything, absolutely everything, and she even said to me, look, you know, just don't tell your dad. Whatever you do, don't tell your dad. I was like, all right, okay. What if he finds out? Well, he won't find out. But I actually told my dad after when my mum passed away, and I just said, look, you know, these things have happened. I've, you know, got myself in a bit of debt. My mum helped me out. I don't want you to be angry with me. He said, I already knew. You don't need to tell me. But he never let on because he's such a reserved person. So like now, I think my dad's 72 now. So, but we get on so well now. We're like, you know, best mates really. I rang him today, and he actually said something really funny, which I don't know if I should really say this on camera.
Go on.
But he was speaking to me. I said, "Oh, you're right, Dad," because he's just been diagnosed with COPD, so he's struggling to breathe with smoking and things like that.
Okay.
And I said, "You're right, Dad." Yeah, sound. He says, "Your mate's doing all right, isn't he?" I mean, he didn't even ask me how I were doing. He said, "Your mate's doing all right." I went, "Who's that?" He went, "Jason." I said, "Oh yeah, he's doing well. He's playing well." He said, "He's put some weight on and he looks like a pork pig." So I told Jason this afternoon, and Jason was laughing his head off because my dad's that kind of character. You know, he just says what he thinks, and I think that's where I get it from.
Yeah,
you know, I sometimes get myself in a little bit of trouble because I say things without thinking.
You're
But
a nice guy though, so you get away with it.
Yeah, and away from the pool table, I've opened a bar with one of my best mates. That's going well. And it's kind of took a little bit of pressure off financially. I'd say over the past 10 years, I was, you know, not the past 10 years, probably past 20 years, I used to gamble a lot, and I was addicted. I got myself out of it. I never went to any Gamblers Anonymous, anything like that. I still have a gamble now, I'm not going to lie. I just think that's a snooker thing where snooker players, dart players, it's a pub thing. They all have a gamble on football and you name it. But I got addicted to casinos, fruit machines, horse racing, you name it, and I was betting on anything, absolutely anything. And I regret it, but it's taught me a lesson. So, and I've been very fortunate where now I'm in a position where I don't gamble because I need to win money. I might have a gamble because it's just an interest. But you know, yeah, I can control it, and I'm doing well for myself. And like I say, I've got the pub, which I've invested in that. Hopefully, I'm going to get a few properties in the next few years. If things go well, and you know, things are going well at the minute, off the table and on the table. So long may it continue.
Well, it sounds really positive, and it's a credit to you as well to be able to come out of that without any of that help or anything like that, to just switch that around. I mean, that must teach you so much in itself when you're in tough situations for you, mentally, to make you so much stronger as a person.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've always been, when I was younger, I used to get bullied at school. And my mum always said, walk away, you're the bigger man. My dad always said, knock the hell out of him, basically, because that was my dad as a character. That's what he did when he was younger. And I never did. I always run away as a kid. But then when I started doing well at snooker and pool and Nineball, these people who bullied me then want to become your friends because they see you on TV, they think you're doing well, might want to borrow a few quid. And there's not many people that I were friends with at school that I'm still friends with, simply because of that reason. But where I live, it's only a small town, Keighley, and everywhere I go, I know somebody. And I've got so many good friends, so many people who follow me, support me. And without them, there's no doubt in my mind that I might not actually be here if it weren't for them. You know, because I was in a bad place. I know it's, well documented about Tyson Fury, people like that. and I was bad.
And for you as well, when you're saying, sorry, it's just like, it's quite, I've never heard you speak about that, so it's just like very interesting to hear you talk about it. When you're at school and you're saying about some of your friends that would bully you, and then you go into that, you're on TV, and then all of a sudden they want to be your friend. How do you even deal with that?
It's hard. It's hard because in one instance you hate them,
Yeah.
but on the other instance you're grown up and you think, well, does it really matter anymore? You know, I know you're probably not that kind of person. It might just be a school ground thing, but believe it or not, I was really skinny at school. And I used to play football, rugby, and I was pretty good at rugby. And I kind of like love sport. I love sport and I love maths. I hated everything else, but I still did my studies, etc. But there'd be days when I'd be walking home and somebody'd boot me and try and nick me dinner money and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? And smack you around back at head. But I don't know if that's part of growing up or what. But I actually had an instance where somebody actually hit me at school, and I bit them, which I probably shouldn't have done. And the headmaster suspended me from school, and he asked my mum and dad to come up, which my dad worked nights fixing lorries, so he didn't finish work till like 3 a.m. So he went up to school at about 8:30 a.m. before school started, and the head teacher sat my mum and my dad down and told them what had happened. And my dad said, well, I've told him to do that. He said, I've told him to hit him back if they hit him. And he went, do you not care about your child? To my dad, and that was just like a red light switch to my dad. And he just stood up. He actually got him by the tie, did my dad, and he just picked him up. And he's only 5'8", and he just said, don't ever speak to me about my child like that again. And he just pushed me away and went, come on, we're going. And I was like, oh God. You know, and I'd never seen my dad like that ever.
Wow.
But learning over time, my mum told me that he used to be like that when he was younger. So I was like, all right. But I recently found out, which I never knew, my great granddad was a Yorkshire billiard champion.
Oh, really?
And none of my family play billiards, snooker, pool, nothing, nobody.
So strange.
Yeah, and I never knew.
And for you to just, when you were younger, to just go into the pub, have that pool table there, and just start knocking about on that, and that's where it starts from.
Yeah, I just loved playing, and you could even come to my hometown now, and there's a lot of people who knew me from being that age who I still know now, and I'm still friends with them, and they'll tell you exactly the same thing. I was like Jason, you could not get me off that table, and it was just all I've ever wanted to do. That was just my life, and it still is my life. Yes, there's a few other things that are going on away from the pool table, but you know, like I said before, I genuinely will never, ever, ever pack in until my eyes stop working, my arms stop working, or something stops working.
I must say, it's such huge respect for you to go through all of those different situations in your life and to come through in such a positive way. And it's really just quite inspirational to listen to, because you're going up and down, you're going through these different challenges that people don't face situations like that, and to be able to come out of that, to be sat here today, and you now got you've opened your bar, and you're so determined as well at the same time. You're sat here going, you know, I'm going to win a major. You're so determined, and to be able to have that about you, it's huge respect and credit as a person, because it's incredible to see. I just think it's just so fantastic. And for you now, looking at like you've got your bar and you're going, okay, financially I've got the pressure off a little bit, and maybe that's, you can enjoy yourself a bit more when you're out playing. You take that pressure off.
Yeah, well, I think what it's taught me is that I actually was working for 18 months about 2 years ago as a delivery driver for a printing company where I live.
You said this for the first Premier League pool when you came in.
Yeah, through COVID. They were absolutely brilliant. I told them what I did for a living, which they knew anyway, and they said basically whenever you want to go away, you can have as much time as you want off. And up to last year, up to August, I'd had about 80 days off, no word of a lie. and they give me every single time I said, look, I'm at a tournament, I'm playing 9-ball, I'm playing 8-ball, no problem, just let me know when you're coming back. and they were absolutely brilliant with me. But I did that because I felt myself getting depressed again through COVID.
Right.
Because if you can imagine, as you know yourself, travelling about a lot, you're on a plane here, there and everywhere. I was on like 58 flights a year, and I was going to China a lot, America a lot, all around Europe. I was going everywhere, and then nothing. Your life basically stopped. And I was sat at home, bored out of my brains. I was the only one who could go out and do shopping for my dad, get his medication, things like that. And I just got to a stage where I was thinking, I'm kind of losing it a little bit here.
Yeah.
So I needed to do something, and getting up. I was getting up at like 2:00 in the afternoon. So for me to get a job and earn, I was earning about £380 a week. All of a sudden, then I'm up at 7 in the morning. I'm getting home at 4:30. I've got a routine. And funny enough, the first 8-ball tournament I ever played, after COVID, I won it. And I didn't even have a cue. I used my mate's cue. I didn't have a cue. And I think it was just a case, because I was in a routine, and I was getting myself up early, I was going to bed early, and I'd never done that. I hadn't done that since I was a young kid. So I think you appreciate the money more, because as being a 17, 18, 19-year-old kid, probably earning, a couple of £1,000 a month at that time, which is a lot of money for a young lad, and then losing it all, getting yourself into debt, then getting yourself out of the debt, and earning 380 and working 40 hours a week, getting up early, finishing at 4:30, you appreciate that if you win 500 or 1,000 or more in a tournament, well, I've had to work 2 weeks for that. Do you know what I mean? So you appreciate, I personally appreciate it more now.
Cool. Like, for someone to be playing pool or snooker, cue sports in tournaments, it develops you into a different kind of person. You're on TV, you're playing in tournaments. To go back to a normal job, to wake up at this time, you go to that time and you get your weekly salary, I couldn't think of anyone who would actually be able to do that within, like, being an athlete, to then go into that. Like, that takes serious, like, it takes real determination, and it's really impressive to see.
Well, what happened was, you get a lot of people that with divided opinion. So some people will say, why is he doing that? He must be skint. And other people would be saying, well, fair play to him.
Yeah.
And I'd say to him, I'm not doing this because I wanted the money. I'm doing it just to get my mental state of mind in the right place for when it opens up, for I want to be ready. And it so happened it worked. It might not have worked. If I hadn't done that, I don't know. But recently I became world number 1 at 8-ball, and I'd not played for 7 years. I've only been playing 18 months. I've used 4 different cues, and I somehow won 4 events. And I don't know how, to be honest with you, because I'm not as confident as I used to be. I'm a confident player, but nowhere near like I used to be. But, I think I've got the experience now where I know how to win when I'm not playing well. Sometimes you don't win, sometimes it doesn't happen. But again, I think you just appreciate it more now, where you might go out and put £100 on a football bet, and now I'm thinking, well, I've had to work 2 days for that. I'm not doing that anymore. Do you know what I mean? So it's taught me to respect money a lot more as well.
I don't think you give yourself enough credit.
Probably not, no, probably not. I mean, a lot of people at home, like I said, you can speak to all my friends at home, and every one of them says, he's a top lad, he'd do anything for you, which I would. I'd do anything for my mates, or anybody in particular. I do a lot for charity. I did quite a bit for the Paul Hunter Foundation. I've done a lot for cancer research, and I don't mind doing my bit, because somebody once said to me, if somebody's talking about you, it means you're still important. And I've always remembered that.
It's that importance.
Yeah, I've always remembered that even if they're talking about, even if it's bad, it means you're important. So for me, I always remember them words.
But even in your game, I still don't think you give yourself enough credit for it.
Probably not, and you know what it is? It's because I don't think I'm the player I ever was. Even though I've more experience, I think I'm a better player all round. I just don't think I'm a better potter than I used to be, which probably makes up for it in different ways. I mean, kicking shots coming out of snookers, things like that. Even Dennis O'Connell and people like that have turned around to me and said, you're nearly as good as Efren at these. And Efren will always be the best at it, there's no doubt about it. But I think I'm certainly up there with the best at it.
Well, I think you need to give yourself a lot more credit than what you do give yourself. just learn so much more about you just listening to the different things, and I think it's really impressive, to be honest.
Cheers, thank you.
I do want to ask you one thing. There was something I saw online where it's your entrance song for a tournament was Wannabe by the Spice Girls, and I'm judging you slightly for that.
No,
I
definitely.
swear I saw something online. It said your entrance song was Wannabe.
That definitely wouldn't have been me who's put that on there. my actual walk-on song, I had a couple, but where I live, it's a big Leeds United town,
Yeah.
and Manchester United, to be fair. But a lot of my mates are all Leeds fans, and they wanted, marching on together, which I try to get that on, But I thought a good one for me would have been "It's a Kind of Magic" by Queen, but obviously you can't do that because of the rights. So I don't know who's put that on, because I've actually seen some of the stuff on Wikipedia about me, and some of the stuff I'm like, this never happened.
No, really?
Do you know,
like what?
Like somebody's beat me for like £10,000 in a money back. This guy who I've never even heard of. But I just take it with a pinch of salt. I just start laughing, And obviously on social media, you get a lot of people who, for every 1,000 people that compliment you, you're always going to get one or two that are always going to knock you back and tell you that they've had a bet on you and you're useless and you shouldn't be playing and all this. I mean, I've seen it all before, but you take it with a pinch of salt. It's part of what you do, and you just got to get on with it.
I was just going to touch base a bit on social media. Is that something that you find? Do you struggle with that side of stuff? Do you not really read it, or are you quite involved? Do you go through ups and downs with it?
Yeah, I'm quite involved with it, to be honest. I like interacting with people. Again, I think that gives me a bit of confidence. I've always been one to speak to anyone. People will tell you that on social media, that he's a nice guy, he does exhibitions, he speaks to everybody. You have a good laugh and a good joke, and I like the banter when I do the exhibitions, and
they get their money's worth.
yeah. I mean, when I do exhibitions, I do so much work in 4 hours. I literally play 40 games, do a 30-minute questions and answers session, the 30-minute trick shot show. So they're getting a lot in 4 hours, which most people probably do 20 to 30 games, and maybe the question and answers, they don't even do the trick shots. But I enjoy it. It's what people. You wouldn't be where you are if it weren't for these people supporting you and paying money to come watch you. So I appreciate it, and that's my way of giving a little bit back.
Love that. That's everything from. I've learned something new about you today, Chris, definitely, and I absolute credit to you just listening to everything. So it's going to be nice for everyone to find out a bit more about you.
Cheers, Emily, thank you.
And if anyone finds Chris Melling's cue from when he was 9 years old, there is a substantial reward, because then you're winning the World Championship with it.
I actually put a £1,000 reward out, and the funniest thing about this, a guy saw him do it, and he followed him, and he thought they were my mates, and it were 2 young lads from Brighton, and they'd basically gone behind the counter at the Hilton Hotel, picked me cue up, which had my name on it, and it's 6 foot long is this case, and I've walked up the high street, gone down the other street, and I've gone out running after them, nowhere to be seen, and never saw it since.
Moscone Cup, I'm going to ask a bit about that.
do you have to?
A lot of your plans, like you've mentioned the World Champion Matchroom Major, and you are playing the open events and things like that, and now that, I'm not going to go on about, Matchroom are doing that, so we all know what the crack is at the moment, but this is more to know about you. The Moscone is so transparent now to get in the event. So is that something that you're looking to get back to there? Because since, obviously when you played there before, you must be wanting to get back into that arena for that event.
Without a doubt, it's the best thing I've ever been involved in. The pressure, for me, the make of a man or a woman and achieving goals and titles is the Moscone Cup, because there's no other event where the pressure is so high, and I love the pressure, absolutely love it. And the first time I ever played in it was under Johan, and there was me, I think it was me, Darren, Nick Vandenberg, Niels Fine and Ralph Souquet, and we sat, I didn't know what was going on, it was all brand new to me. And I actually took my dad to Vegas, which the furthest he'd ever flown was Spain. So I paid for him to come to Vegas and what have you. And
how old are you at this point?
it was 2010, I think it was.
Okay.
so I'd have been 31.
Okay.
And I got there, didn't know what to expect. I've been to Vegas before, obviously, but I was with the guys and was in this room and was talking and was chatting, and Johan sat us all in a circle, and he'd asked us about the year of what had happened on and off the table. So they all spoke, and it came round to me last. So I'm talking away, and he's gone, so what's happened off the table? So I'm like, well, my mother's passed away. Two of my best mates have passed away. My best mate, who were on holiday 3 months ago, died in a car crash. You know, just so many things happened in such a short space of time. And I looked up, and all the guys are crying, all of them. And I'm like, what are you crying at? You know, because I'm an emotional person. And I was like, what are you doing here? What have I done?
Yeah.
You know, and they were just like, I can't believe how you can perform after all that's happened. And I was like, listen, you know, these people won't want me to be like this. They want me to win. And we're going to win. So when we played, and I played Shane Van Bonen first match, because Johan had messed up, because whoever played first got an extra match, and I was a rookie, and I'm getting a lot of rubbish from Dennis Hatch. Oh, the rookie, you know, he's not going to be able to make a ball. I'm thinking, have a day off. You know, I'll absolutely mully you if I play you. So I've got on the table, and I'm playing Shane, who I respect so much, and I've ended up beating him 6-5. And
was it race to 6 then?
Yeah, and the mistake worked, if you like to say, and we ended up winning it that year. And then the funniest thing what I remember about it is when we won. When we won, Nick Vandenberg's come running in, and I've come running in and gone like that, and I've nearly knocked Nick out. I punched him straight nose, but I didn't know I'd done it. And he's turned around, his nose is bleeding. I'm like, what's up with you? He's gone, you just punched me. I'm like, sorry, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to do that. But the atmosphere, the pressure, the fans, I mean, it's something that as a pool player, you have to witness. You have to experience it, whether it be in London or Vegas. You've got to experience it because there's nothing like it.
So you feel like that first Moscone, it was kind of like you were doing that for that whole year that you had?
Yeah, and also my dad and a lot of my friends were there as well, and we ended up winning it. I lost out on the MVP by, I think it was half a point.
Oh, really?
And then the year after, I won the MVP in London, and they all jumped over me after I did that crazy shot against Brandon Schuff, and like nearly broke me back. But I mean, it was just, it's surreal, to be honest with you. It's just something that, like I said, you can't experience it until you've been in that arena. I mean, we all slate footballers for missing penalties and things like that, but when you're in that arena and you've got a shot that's the easiest shot you've ever seen in your life, you can miss it because there's so much pressure on you. Not only is the pressure on your game, but it's all your teammates, it's your family, it's your friends, it's your continent. You know, there's so much pressure on you. And honestly, if you ever get the chance, and I definitely want to play again.
Yeah.
And one thing you probably don't know, Emily, I've never been beat in the individuals.
Have you not?
Never. No, I never lost a match in the individuals.
Wow.
So I want to get back there just to try and boost my record a little bit as well.
Yeah. That is incredible. And to think that Moscone, those 2 years, what an achievement to be able to do that, be half a point from the MVP, get the MVP the next year. Oh, no wonder why you want to get back in that arena.
Yeah, I got dropped the year after. No, listen, you know, the lads that play now, they deserve it. They're the best players. As you know, I've no airs and graces in admitting that they deserve to be there. But I know that when I turn it on, I'm as good as any of them. And that is definitely one of my goals, to get back in that Moscone Cup.
Wow, you heard it here. And also, if I was captain, listening to everything you're saying, I'll be sitting there going, yeah, put Chris out. Put the pressure on him.
I just love it. I just love the pressure. I mean, this probably might sound wrong, but if somebody put a gun against my head when I was playing, I'd be all right, because I love the pressure. And I think that is, I'm not saying that I'm a great player, but I think that's the difference between a good and a great, is being able to handle that pressure. And it's not something you can be taught. You have it or you don't have it.
And just one of my final questions. I know that you've spoken about the snooker tour before, and I don't think it was quite as developed as what it is now. I know you've also said that pool you can't seem to just come away from. Have you got any plans with like the World Snooker Tour? Obviously, it's in a great place where it is now. Anything on?
Not really. I don't have a cue, to be honest. Tom Ford actually spoke to me about 3-4 months ago, and he said, look, I want you to play it. But what's really funny, and it's a little bit off subject, I actually got some darts coaching from Glenn Durant. I went to his house.
No way.
Up in Middlesbrough, yeah. It's only just before Christmas. And he had me going round the board, like the practice routine. He says, go for treble 1, and then work round, see how many you can get, and then go for the bull. He said a professional with 1 dart at a double will probably get between 7 and 10 all the way around the board. And I got 7. And then he says, go for the bull. See how many bulls you can hit with 3 darts. And I hit 2 bulls with 3 darts. And he went, you're a little bit better than an average person. I was like, all right. And I was actually hungover as well. And he turned around to me at the end of the practice session. And I don't think I'm good enough to be a pro dart player. But he turned around and he says, I'll pay for you to go on the Q school for darts. He actually said that to me. And I was like, are you serious? And he went, without a doubt.
Well, why don't you ever try it?
I'd love to have a go at it, to be honest. I mean, I know I'm not good enough to do it, but I know I'm good enough to beat some of the players.
This lack of confidence coming in. I bet, go and have a crack at it and see what happens.
Yeah, well, listen, when I play well like Carl Boys, I mean, I can hit 11 darts and 12 darts, so I know I can do it. But again, the snooker, Tom Ford told me to go back playing. I haven't played for 7 years. I played in the local working men's club one Sunday after about 6 pints, and I picked a rack cue up that was like terrible, and I knocked in a 78 breakfast shot. And I was like, well, I can still play a little bit. Listen, I can probably still knock in 147s, 100 breaks galore, but doing it out there against somebody else that can do it against you is totally different.
Okay.
I do think if I had a solid 6 months practice, I think I could certainly beat a lot of the tour. My downfall was I was always beating the top players and losing to players that I think I should have been beating. So like the last time I was on the tour, the first event I beat Matthew Stevens 5-4. The second event I beat Joe Perry with Joe O'Connor's cue.
Oh wow.
Because my cue didn't turn up.
Yeah.
So you can imagine Joe O'Connor's cue is 56 inches, and I've got the longest backswing in the world. So when I'm pulling the cue back, it's falling off my hand. Do you know what I mean? So I was like, and I knocked in 280s first 2 shots against Joe. I beat him. I beat Ebden. Beat Bond. Beat a lot of good players. But then I was losing to players that I felt I should have been beating, and then I kind of lost confidence with it all, and I stuck to the pool, to be honest.
You're just going into those matches maybe more relaxed because they weren't the top pros.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is, as a snooker player, I would say every single snooker player on that tour, that's their living, and that's what they have to do, where it wasn't my living. My living was pool, so I was still earning a living regardless of what happened at snooker. And I think that's kind of a disadvantage that I had, is that I could earn money playing pool. I think if I couldn't have done that, I would have definitely made it somewhere near top 32.
Well, I want to see you get on the darts. Have a crack at that. I think it would be.
I've got them in the car as it happens.
All right. Well, thank you, Chris.
Cheers,
I appreciate it.
Thank
Good luck
you.
in Premier League pool.
Thank you very much.